House of Reps condemns attack on Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State. I'm Linda Akibe, and you are welcome to the Gavel. The House of Representatives has condemned the assassination attempt on Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State. Lawmakers say the attack on Governor Ortom is an indication of anarchy and full-scale lawlessness in the country, and they are asking the security agencies to ensure that the attackers are brought to justice. Now, the Senate and the House of Representatives also continued work on reforming the police. The Senate passed through second reading a bill to amend the Police Service Commission Act 2001 to strengthen the commission to effectively oversight the police. Now, the House of Representatives, on the other hand, is repealing and reenacting the Police Service Commission Bill, which is intended to institute an independent system for holding erring police officers to account for abuses of power and misconduct in office. The House of Representatives has condemned the assassination attempt on Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State. The lawmakers say the attack on Governor Ortom is an indication of anarchy and full-scale lawlessness in the country. They commended President Buhari for promptly ordering an investigation and are asking the security agencies to ensure that the attackers are brought to justice to serve as a deterrent. Meanwhile, the petition by a group of Tiv indigents from Benue State in the diaspora, which generated controversy last week, has finally been laid before the House of Representatives.
Excuse me.
This was after an exchange between the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives and a member from Benue State, Mark Bila, on the 11th of March 2021 over a petition from Tiv indigents in the United States of America.
If this petition is coming from those who are within the country, I believe it has a very good standing. But these people living in America and then coming to lodge, now.
Despite this video, the Deputy Speaker, in responding to the negative reactions which trailed his statement, says it was doctored and he has no bias against any tribe or region of the country. About 2 weeks later, with the Speaker presiding, the petition is accepted and laid.
The House of Representatives does not discriminate against Nigerians wherever they may be, whatever the remotest part of the world they may be. They remain Nigerians. I think the misunderstanding came from the issue of signatures. Please go ahead and lay your petition. It will be given proper and due attention.
Thank you very much.
The petition was filed by Tiv America on insecurity in Benue, Nasarawa and Taraba states, where they claim that indigents had been sacked from their ancestral lands by herders. The ad hoc committee of the House of Representatives, which is reviewing the purchase, use and control of arms, ammunition and related hardware by military, paramilitary and other law enforcement agencies in the country, has passed a resolution to summon the Chief of Army Staff and CBN Governor over arms procurement by the Nigerian Army. The committee reached a decision after the CBN and the Chief of Army Staff failed to honor its invitation for a meeting with it. The chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Customs says the CBN has procured 4 scanners for the Nigerian Customs Service to effectively inspect goods coming into the country. He says this is an improvement from the observations of the committee during its oversight functions earlier in the year, when there were no scanners at all the customs formations visited.
If ammunition are hidden in containers, it's impossible for you to get them by doing just 100% examination, do physical examination. But if there are scanners, scanner will point and show, no matter how you hide the ammunition, it will point to where it is hidden. So we need scanners at the port. Last 2 weeks, we invited the Controller General of Customs. I was the chairman in that committee meeting. He told us that Central Bank of Nigeria now has procured 4 scanners for them, though they have not been installed yet. So I think this is a step in the right direction. So we'll make sure also the border stations to have all these scanners. And there's something we are suggesting, the usage of technology, using drone to survey and monitor the border stations. where it's impossible for officers to penetrate into. Drone will go there, search. If there's any activities going on, drone will show it.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, says police officers who give the force a bad name must be weeded out to prevent them from tarnishing the hard work of the good ones. He stated this at a public hearing organized by the House Committee on Police Affairs on 2 police bills. Mr. Gbajabiamila believes that a great number of policemen are good and should not be spoiled by the bad ones.
We must attempt to weed out the few rotten eggs that seem to give the police force, men and women who lay their lives and put their lives out there on the daily for you and I. And that is why we're taking this bill very serious. The bill proposes changes to the composition of the Police Service Commission. It further proposes reorganizing the commission to be public-facing and able to receive and investigate complaints against police officers. This bill will increase the minimum requirement for recruitment into the constabulary and allow for the recruitment of more qualified candidates into the Nigerian police force.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Police Affairs is disputing a provision in the proposed Police Service Commission bill, which does not empower the President to remove the chairman and members of the Police Service Commission. He believes that he who can appoint can remove.
The power of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, to remove the chairman and members has to some extent been deleted, leaving only the power of members to resign at their own discretion or at their own time.
The position of the ministry is acceptable to the Inspector General of Police, who is also concerned about the future of policing.
Officers that will be trained to lead not only within the police as a service, but even after leaving the service, and when they get to other spheres of life within the country, they should be able to lead properly. We needed an institute that will deal with security and policing matters.
Because of the belief of the head of state then, that some retired officers will be very helpful to the force and to the commission and to Nigeria as a whole. They have been using the opportunity, using their office to pick people they believe will be very, very helpful to the commission and to Nigeria.
The Police Service Commission Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020 is intended to institute an independent system for holding erring police officers to account for abuses of power and related misconduct in office. Meanwhile, the Senate is working on a legislation to establish a support fund for the families of fallen servicemen. The sponsor of the bill, Senator Abba Moro, says it is extremely important that the National Assembly enacts a law for a fund to take care of the families of security personnel killed in service in return for their sacrifices for defending the country.
For the purpose of this bill, therefore, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, may I define families of fallen servicemen to include families of members of the armed forces and operatives of other security agencies who die in the line of duty, be it combat or non-combat death. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, we all know that coping with the death of loved ones is an enormous load to bear, as it sparks traumatic heartbreaks that can lead to feelings of dissertation or indignation in addition to deep poignancy. In the case of families of fallen heroes, it is even more burdensome because in any of such circumstance of the loss of a loved one, a grieving spouse may have the additional responsibility of caring for the children, helping them to cope with the loss and change in their lives, and in some cases, families of fallen servicemen further experience additional senses of loss from having to move outside of their military community, which includes a change of school for their children.
Let's see what the Senate was up to during the week. The Senate is working on a legislation which it hopes will prohibit the discrimination between first-degree and higher national diplomas in workplaces in the country. It held a public hearing on March 22nd in the National Assembly, where interested parties lamented that a dichotomy has affected a significant number of Nigeria's workforce, and an amendment of existing laws is critical to create equity and fairness in work.
The forms of discrimination are in public domain, that we don't go beyond level 14. That even if you want to go beyond level 4, no matter how good you are, how competent, you have to be demoted to 2 or 3 grade levels. Even if you are the best, or then in that place also, that you have to go back to the university after spending 5 years in the polytechnic.
If technology must thrive in this country, there should be equal opportunity for all of us to get the best out of whatever that we are going for. This dichotomy has really affected this nation seriously. And if you look at what has happened outside there, having an example of China and Korea, if we must succeed, if this nation must develop, we need technology, and we must develop technologically. That is the only solution for this country to survive.
The federal government has intervened in the past to address the dichotomy, namely setting up a white paper drafting committee in June 2006 on the consolidation of emoluments in the public sector to put an end to the dichotomy, as well as a circular from the head of service requesting government agencies to harmonize all discrepancies between HND and their degree awarding counterparts.
The National Council on Establishments at its 39th meeting in Minna, Niger State, certain resolutions were taken for the HND person to move above grade level 14. The resolution also stated that, one, they need to do a bridging program, which is PGD, and a master's for them to be converted for them to reach grade level 15. I said I'm stating the facts of the case. And the last council decision on it was that Ministry of Education, National Board of Technical Education, and National University Commission should all come together with a view to reviewing the curriculum of HND holders to make it the same with bachelor's degree, or what they call the BTech. And this was taken as far back as 2018, and we are still awaiting that.
While the National Assembly works on this legislation to prohibit discrimination between first-degree and higher national diplomas for the purposes of employment, these experts want government agencies to implement the resolutions from the white paper and the circular.
We are received
The same public hearing was also to consider a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Agriculture, Kaba, from the present College of Agriculture, which has been serving as a campus of the Ahmadu Bello University in Kaba since 1971. Stakeholders at the hearing argued that of all the federal colleges of agriculture established across the country from the 1960s to 1990s, only the one at Kaba still remains a college, while the others have been upgraded to universities.
As I went through the records of similar colleges, campuses established after Kaba College of Agriculture, not less than 4 of such agricultural colleges in Makurdi, Sokoto, Kano, and Bauchi have all been upgraded to full-fledged universities in this country. It is therefore not out of place for Nigeria to have at least, Mr. Chairman, 2 federal universities of agriculture in each of the geopolitical zones of the Federation. This will help to improve our foreign exchange earnings and provide jobs for millions of Nigerian youth. Unemployment today is the greatest threat to the peace, stability, and prosperity of Nigeria.
You're welcome back to the Gavel. The Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against the Senate President and the Speaker of House of Representatives over their failure to probe and to refer to appropriate anti-corruption agencies, allegations that 4.4 billion naira of public money budgeted for the National Assembly is missing or misappropriated, as documented in 3 annual audited reports by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. Now, joining me virtually is the Deputy Director, SERAP, Mr. Kolawole Oluwadare, to discuss the lawsuit. Thanks for joining us on the Gavel.
Thank you very much, Linda. I'm happy to be here.
Now, could you tell us what this lawsuit is about?
The SERAP's lawsuit is about getting the National Assembly to perform its statutory duties, specifically that which is listed in Section 88 of the 1999 Constitution, which is to cause investigations into the allegations made by the Auditor General in the audit reports. For proper context, we need to understand the role of the Auditor General of the Federation in the accountability cycle in Nigeria. And when the budget process is made and allocations are made for public funds to various MDAs, those funds are also disbursed and spent by way of expenditure. So what the Auditor General does by virtue of Section 85 of the Constitution is to look into how those funds are spent by all MDAs and public institutions in Nigeria and to see proof of such spending and whether they were spent in accordance to the various and extant laws laid down for expenditure. That is what the Auditor General does. And the Auditor General, in auditing the accounts of all these ministries, departments, and agencies and public institutions, forwards the reports of his findings, which is called the audit report, to the National Assembly, who now looks at the reports and causes an investigations into the allegations made by the Auditor General. And by way of the powers given to the National Assembly, they can summon these MDAs, their respective accounting officers, to come and explain and show reason why further steps should not be taken by way of referring into the anti-corruption agencies. But in this instance, in the audit reports 2015, 2017, and 2018, it is the National Assembly that the Auditor General has said that various sums budgeted and allocated for the National Assembly have not been properly spent or accounted for, and he fears that they might have been stolen or misappropriated, as the case may be. And that is along with other MDAs in Nigeria. And so the National Assembly is being called upon in this instance. Why can't they investigate these allegations against themselves when they've done so many against various MDAs in the past?
So what I'm getting is that what you seek to achieve with this lawsuit is for the court to compel the National Assembly to investigate this allegation from the Auditor General's report.
Yes, because the law empowers them to do so. In fact, the law mandates the National Assembly to do so. And because the courts have the power to mandate a public officer to do duties that have been statutorily provided for him or her to do under the law.
Now, we spoke to the Senate spokesman on this matter, and he says the procedure for the National Assembly to look into queries in the Auditor General's report is for the query to be brought to the Public Accounts Committee of either the Senate or the House of Representatives, which will in turn give the National Assembly management the opportunity to respond to the allegations before the concluded report is brought to both chambers. Has this been done? Have you monitored this process to find out that if this has been done at that level?
The law that gives the Auditor General the power to audit the accounts of public institutions gives a specific time frame for the Auditor General to forward the reports, his conclusions, to the National Assembly. And by way of the published reports by the Auditor General, which can be found on the website of the Auditor General, by the way, the Auditor General has forwarded these reports to the National Assembly. That is the reports 2015, 2017, and 2018. So the reports, as we speak, they are with the National Assembly. The National Assembly cannot claim ignorance of these reports. More so in the lawsuit that we filed, bearing in mind that these documents are public documents, they are available in the public domain. We have also exhibited not only the audit report themselves and those aspects where these allegations have been made by the Auditor General, but also the proof, the letter by which the Auditor General has forwarded these documents to the National Assembly. So the audit report 2015 was sent to the National Assembly in 2015, while the audit report of 2017 was sent to the National Assembly. And so they are in custody of these documents.
This lawsuit is part of a bigger conversation as regards accountability and transparency of the federal legislature and the question of who oversights the National Assembly and how effective is this oversight.
Which is exactly one of the legal issues, and I think matters of public interest that Nigerians should be interested in, either as an outcome or a direct fallout of this court action by SERAP. Who will ensure that the National Assembly, in carrying out its oversight functions, of transparency and accountability is itself accountable, not only for the way the National Assembly does its statutory functions, but for funds allocated to the National Assembly year in, year out. It's a very important conversation that Nigerians should not be only interested in, but to see it to a logical conclusion.
We interviewed the Senate spokesperson, Senator Ajibola Bashiru, to get his reaction to the lawsuit by Serap.
The matter is sub judice, and we don't even see why Serap will have to be issuing statements about the matter that he has taken to court. But to the extent that they have said they have issued a statement, I will say that they are in the National Assembly already used to Serap litigating frivolously, and that is why we may ask them what is the success rate of all the cases they claim they file on pages of the newspaper. The truth is that if you want to make a case, you ask yourself what provision of the Constitution or what provision of the law has been breached by the Speaker or the President of the Senate. What I read from what Serap has said was that there was an Auditor General's report asking questions about 4.4 billion, which is not even within the tenure of the President Assembly. I think it was 2017. And the procedure, which I believe, Serap, if they are really cognizant of what they are doing, is that when Auditor General's report is made and the report of it rendered, it goes to the Public Account Committee of the Senate or House of Reps. Public Account Committee statutorily is headed by even members of opposition. One would have thought that if Serap is really interested about pursuing issue of the content of the auditor report, he should have engaged with the Public Account Committee of the National Assembly. Then secondly too, upon what basis will you say you are going to court against the President of the Senate or the Speaker? Is there any provision that has been breached or they have not done? Are you asking for mandamus? If you are asking for mandamus, there must be a duty, and the duty must be set by law. So either the Constitution or the law setting up the National Assembly, none of these have been applied. When audit query is raised, is for clarification to be made by the appropriate agency, and that is why there is Public Account Committee. National Assembly cannot just act on what has not been processed by its statutory organ, which is the Public Account Committee, statutory set up by the National Assembly. So you see there's a difference between raising red herring for political purposes or to justify maybe some patronage from some external sources and raising issue of transparency. Then secondly, if Serap had read that report and felt that there are issues to be raised by the anti-corruption agency, it does not need to say you are suing the President of Senate. Even ordinary citizens can approach the EFCC and ICPC if they feel that crime has been committed.
This is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.